Hi, this is the video for your assignment that is going to show you how to create the virtual machines that you'll be using as part of your assignment where you set up the server and the client computers and get them talking and printing and setting up file permissions and such. So from our perspective, it's a whole heck of a lot easier to set this up as virtual machines rather than setting it up as physical computers. And just a quick overview of the way virtualization works. You're going to be using Remote Desktop to connect to this virtual server. So this is a server running Windows Server 2008 R2, and it has functionality enabled called Hyper-V. So Hyper-V is Microsoft's virtualization product, and Hyper-V allows the resources that are on one physical computer to be shared by multiple virtual machines. So from a real world perspective, we use this in kind of data centers for businesses all the time because I can buy a $7,000 server and I'm able to run 4, 5, 6 virtual machines on it. So it saves me quite a bit of money if I don't have to spend $7,000 per, and if I can just have them all share the same hardware as long as there's enough hardware capacity. Even though the server we're using for your activity has pretty limited resources, we're still going to easily be able to get 3 virtual machines running on this. The slowest part of it is actually the hard drive, so you might see it be a little bit clunky at some points based on that. So just before I go on to the rest of it, let's talk briefly about how you guys connect to this thing. So it's going to be a remote desktop connection, so you can use remote desktop through Windows. There's remote desktop clients also available for Macs and iPads and whatever else you guys want to do. But your restriction is going to be only one of you can be logged in as that particular user at a given time. So one way to address that is you can all go to the same physical location. You can all kind of hover around a keyboard and a laptop screen. But that's a little bit awkward for all of you to view, and it's also a little bit awkward to get into the same physical location. So what I suggest you guys actually do, which might be more useful to you, is that one person does the remote control in through a remote desktop. And then you use some other utility, and there's a whole bunch of them out there. So Skype, I believe, is able to do screen sharing for multiple people at the same time. TeamViewer can do it. Mikogo can do it. WebEx can do it. So any sort of virtual meeting software that's out there, and all of them have trial accounts, so you should be able to get a trial account that lasts you the few days that you need. And try it out, see how it goes. Most of those utilities also have voice over IP functionality, so if you have a headset and a computer, you can all be talking on that at the same time, or do your conference call via phone and just do the video via screen sharing. But that's the way I'd suggest you go at it. Alright, getting on to the whole virtual machine setup. So we have our one physical server, and we're going to be creating the virtual machines for your activities. Now the utility we need to do or use to make that happen is one called Hyper-V Manager. So Hyper-V Manager is able to create virtual machines and start them and view them and manage them and all that sort of stuff. So right now there are no virtual machines on this server. When you're doing your assignment, there may be other groups' virtual machines on this server. What I'm going to ask you to do is make sure you don't touch anybody else's virtual machines. Because if you touch the other people's virtual machines, then you might delete those machines or mess them up in some way, shape, or form, and we don't want that happening. The marking for your individual assignments might not happen immediately, so we don't want to mess up anybody else's stuff. Now, in terms of how you create the virtual machines, 2 different ways you can go at it. You can either right-click the host name here, because the computer you're actually controlling is VM host SSD, and go new virtual machine over there, or if you want, in the actions menu on the right hand side, you can also do new and virtual machine. Either one gets you to the same place. When you're creating the virtual machine, this first page is just kind of introductory information. Click next, and we want to name our virtual machine. Again, because all of you guys are doing this, I'm going to suggest you name your virtual machines to include your group name as well as the function of it. So for example, I'm going to call mine admin-server. And for you guys, it could be group 1 server, group 2 server, so on and so forth. The other thing that's really important at this point is we want to store the video in an alternate location. So the default location you can actually see is on the C drive. If all of you guys go to create virtual machines on the C drive, trust me, we're way going to run out of space. So we want to store it in an alternate location, and the place you want to store it is on the D drive, because that's my larger drive, and in the MIS folder, and inside of there I have a folder already created for each one of your groups. So you would select the one for your group. So I'm going to select admin for me, and then next. The amount of memory we're going to assign to the virtual machines, I believe, is specified in the assignment. We have 8 gigs of memory on the server, and for your 3 virtual machines, each of them should take no more than 2 gigs of memory, so I will do 2 gigs of memory here. However, your assignment may specify the amount of RAM to put in. On the networking side, we need to connect it to this one called private network. So private network is a virtual network that exists only inside our virtual environment. It doesn't actually have any permission to talk to the outside world. From a real world perspective, when we set up virtual machines for use by people, we do give it access to the outside world, but we're trying to isolate you guys a little bit. On the next screen here about the virtual hard disk, you can see the virtual hard disk is being named the same as our server. So this is actually a file that is going to be created on the D drive, and you can see it's being created in the folder we specified. And this virtual hard drive is where your C drive in the virtual machine is stored. So this is how it subdivides the disk. And we are going to create the virtual disk, and even though we're setting it to be a size of 127 gigs, it won't actually make the file that large. It's going to be what they call a dynamically expanding disk. So that VHD file will be very small to begin with, and it will only expand as data is stored inside of it. So we're all good to allow that to be 127 gigs, no problem. And here for installation options, we're going to go with install an operating system later, just because that's easier. Gives us a quick summary of what it's going to do, and click Finish. So now it actually creates the virtual machine, and you can see we've got a virtual machine, and it is off right now. And just so we can take a quick look, if we browse to where my stuff was stored, it created a folder for that server based on the name of the server, and you can see it does have that VHD file, and you can see its initial starting size is tiny because we haven't put anything inside it. As we install the operating system and do other stuff, that will expand as required. So expect that to expand, well, for the operating system, probably about 8 gigs with Windows 2008 R2. So our next step is to actually install the operating system. If we had physical computers, we'd be putting in a physical DVD at this point and boot from the DVD. Well, we do basically the same thing in a virtual environment. So I'm going to go into the settings for the virtual machine, and I'm going to go to the DVD drive. Now, I don't have the physical disk. Well, I do have physical disks for this stuff, but we don't need to use it. What we want to use instead is an image file. So this is an ISO file that is a copy of a DVD. And the ISO files are stored on D drive in ISO, and there's Windows 2008 R2. Now I've got my screen resolution a little low here, so I had to move that. So click OK because we've now put it in the drive. Now at this point, I could right-click and start the virtual machine, but I'm actually going to connect to it first while it's turned off, just so you guys can see the entire boot process. So this is what the remote control screen for it looks like. So it's turned off, and we've got this button here. So the reason this couple of things I want to point out about this remote control screen. Number one, you've got access to all the stuff here. You've also got this media thing where you can browse to put the media in also. We can start the virtual machine from here, and notice in this upper left corner is Control-Alt-Delete. Through Remote Desktop, you can do Control-Alt-End as an alternative to Control-Alt-Delete, but that's probably going to do a Control-Alt-Delete within the server, not within your virtual machine. So if you run all your virtual machines in a window like this, it's a lot easier to control by using this Control-Alt-Delete button up here. So I wouldn't go full screen with this stuff. I would keep this available. So I'm going to start the virtual machine, and you can see that it actually looks just like a regular computer starting up. Try and make this as visible as I can. The default size, however, is a little larger than I'd prefer. When you guys do the remote control, you can make it as large as you want. You don't need to keep it small like I have. Okay, and then this is getting to the point where you're installing the server, which is covered by the other video. So that's really all you need to know about that. I'm going to minimize this window and just show you that I could again go over here, create a new virtual machine, make this one admin client 1 or workstation 1 or whatever works out. We're again going to store it in a different location, my admin folder. And memory, give it 1024, so 1 gig, doesn't need that much. Connect it to the private network. Automatically names the file okay, looking good. Install the operating system later. And again for my client, settings, go to my DVD drive, pick the image file from DISO, and I want Windows 7. And then I can do the same with the client. So I believe the assignment has you guys do 2 clients, so you do one and then do the other. Because disk speed is going to be a bottleneck, don't try and run the install of the server and the client at the same time. It'll actually end up being slower than if you run one and then run the next. But otherwise, exactly the same process. And you're on your way to installing Windows 7. So that should be everything you need. Well, sorry, I guess maybe not everything you need to know about the virtual machines. When you're done with the virtual machines, you treat them just like a regular physical computer. Go to the Start menu, do Shutdown. For what we're doing, there should be no need for doing anything fancy like snapshots or anything like that. And worst case scenario, if you blow it all up, we can always delete your virtual machines, recreate them, and start over again from the beginning. You'll find that once you've done it once, it's way faster the second time. So, good luck with your assignment, and hope everything goes well.